is Eric from IONCINEMA.com at the 2024 American Film Festival in Wroclaw. This is the U.S. in Progress, which had 9 babies this year. I'm speaking to producer Ryan Martin Brown for Paula González-Nasser's The Scout. Paula was at the festival, but has an impediment. This falls into a category of film that I love, a subgenre, which is films about filmmaking. However, this is a completely different skew. So before climbing into the film, I was looking through IMDb credits. There was perhaps a creative synergy that existed between you and the filmmaker a while back ago. Some of your early credits were on Lynn Ramsey's film, of course Barry Jenkins' film. That's possibly where the meetup occurred. And there was a collaboration on your feature film, Free Time. So I just wanted to get a sense of what that collaboration looked like from the very onset, and how did it become a creative partnership where somebody's supporting you in one creative way, and then how you're sort of like volleying back the same energy.
Totally. Well, Paul and I actually met even earlier than those films. We went to school together in Tallahassee, Florida, at the film school at FSU. And so we had collaborated there for very closely with, it's a very small class of about
it's
25 other
right?
people, and it's Tallahassee. Yeah. There's not much else to go explore, so you get really tight with this group of 25 people. And so Paul and I had already started a very close collaboration while we were in Tallahassee, and then a group of like 10 or 12 of us all moved to New York from Tallahassee at the same time, and got on our feet there. Was so lucky to work as PAs and assistants on their great films, and Barry and Adela and James and Joy and all these guys were such a great even when we were in Tallahassee, they were kind of obviously held up as such a great example to follow. And so I think that's the great thing about that school, is you're really taught to work collaboratively, and there is just this kind of idea of swapping hats, and that it takes a community to kind of make these small films happen. So we've always been kind of in the practice of that. So when we put together Free Time, as soon as Paula had the idea for this film, we were like, well, we would just do it kind of like that again, and we'll just kind of swap hats around and get the crew back together and do this one. So that's kind of how it came together, I suppose.
And they say, write what you know. This is a professional experience that you would have shared on some level.
Yes,
You're on set.
We're on set even more so.
Like.
Paula did work as a location scout.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's very, very curious. So I saw the first 20 minutes of the film, and what really struck me is the tone. At one sense, I'm feeling a malaise. I'm feeling uneasy. And another sense, I'm feeling there's a sort of comedic element to the film. There's a sort of warm element to the film. Essentially, we're going to people's personal spaces, and I thought that was such an interesting. There's also a very interesting blueprint in how those spaces, how we look at those spaces. So essentially, I want to get a sense of the early conversations about this project and what it means to explore this world, the idea of space, the idea of the connective tissue that isolates people but also brings them together. It's a very, very well thought out blueprint, I want to say.
Well, that's very thoughtful, Eric. Thank you. And I'm going to try to speak to it as well as you just did, honestly. I think Paula, I mean, again, to come from that personal experience, it's like, Paula worked as a location scout for many years in New York on all sorts of different, shows, and it was a great job, and she had a lot of great experiences. But in a way, it's a very strange job.
It's a bizarre world.
Yeah, and so you're kind of knocking on doors and essentially, meeting a total stranger, and then within a few minutes, you're like in their, you know, bedroom with them taking photos, they're talking to you about their divorce, and then like 10 minutes later it's like, all right, nice to meet you, see ya. And so, you know, that was really kind of the initial seed, you know, of the film was, you know, everyone, as you kind of say, living in these different kind of isolated, you know, spaces, their own space in the city, and that this one, this person with this particular job gets to kind of pass through those spheres in a very kind of, you know, odd way.
Manner, in a way.
In a way, yes, because it is. It's like weirdly, I wouldn't even say it's observational, but it's like you're really entering that sphere in a way. You're kind of taking on, you know, you're really taking on a lot of that person's life for a very condensed amount of time, and then you're kind of just spat back out to, you know, the world.
I was really drawn by the cinema language, the aesthetic, the shot selection, how we move from one space to another, kind of like what a photographer would do. Again, I go back to that creepiness, uneasy malaise aspect.
It was something that Paula and we worked with a great cinematographer, another friend from school and a longtime collaborator, Nicola Newton. Paula and Nicola had really talked about that exact element a lot going into it, that the way that we were going to be capturing these spaces, obviously it's a film about, you know, locations in many a way, was going to echo a little bit that feeling of what coming in and kind of capturing those spaces would feel like. So that was definitely
there's a lot of consideration put there.
Yes, definitely.
It's not haphazard.
Right.
Let's talk about Mimi Davila, I think is how you pronounce her name. When I was sitting with this character, I was thinking a lot about Lost in Translation, how that character sort of like relates to the world around her. There's like this naiveness, but there's also very purposeful things. She needs to get a job done, but she's very focused on the end result. So her approach as a person to other people, how she connects with those people, I thought was really, really interesting. Just talk to me about finding this actress and her inhibiting this character and truly putting herself in that DNA.
Yeah, Paula and Mimi had worked together before. They had done a short film together in Miami that Paula had directed. And so they had a collaboration in a language, and I think even when Paula started thinking about this film, she was thinking about Mimi and thinking about working with Mimi again. And yeah, it is an interesting character, and I know Paula and Mimi talked a lot about, it's a character that you don't necessarily have.
You don't know her agenda.
Yeah, you don't have that internal access on some level, but in other ways you do. I think Lost in Translation is a great, example. Or I know Paula and Mimi talked a lot about some Antonioni films, even. It's interesting about how close you can kind of feel to the character without necessarily having the film hand to you any sort of kind of like, and by the way, this is what this moment means to her right here. It's, and it kind of mirrors, I think, the experience of that character through the film, where she's having all these, again, different overlapping experiences with all these people, and there's that kind of accumulation of human experience over the day, and in a weird way, our relationship with the character is kind of, mirroring that.
She has to be on her guard. She has to properly assess everything in the moment. And I thought that was really, really fascinating about how we sort of see her POV. Last question. So we're very close to picture lock. Imagine that means a lot for you. You're thinking about 2025, the film festival circuit and whatnot. What was perhaps the biggest challenge for you at the very last stages of this project?
Honestly,
from a producer's perspective.
Oh, from a producer's perspective, I don't know. Just find the time to finish the movie. From a creative standpoint, it kind of goes a little bit into what you're saying. Is again, we were always trying to kind of modulate how much, because it is a very internal journey in some ways that the character is going through. How much we could be with her in the film, how much we could be observational, and getting that kind of balance right, where you're kind of charting that journey and you're with her in that, but without, you know, tipping the hand, you know, too much. I think that was kind of where Paul and I's concern. And we're working with another, again, a friend from school and a great editor, Byron Leon. We've all kind of been, you know, at the computer the last few months trying to get that balance, you know, just right.
I like the idea of tribes. Congratulations on the first 20 minutes that I saw, and I'm very much looking forward to the final product. It's Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.